Hello, I'm Walter, and welcome to another one of my little noobcraft sessions here. I don't normally show replays of me playing against a computer, because oftentimes they are somewhat boring, because computers are so predictable so many times. But I do know that a lot of people that are starting to play the game, that's what they do, is they get their practice from the computer. That's what they do, it's how they do it. And it's really not absolutely a horrible thing. The only thing is, oftentimes the best way to play against a computer is to know that, okay, I'm not just playing this as a regular game against another player, because computers don't play anything like other players. However, sometimes it's good to go in mind, like, okay, I'm going to practice a certain type of build, or I'm going to practice this strategy, or I'm going to practice on making sure that I never supply block myself, or something like that. So it's really good to practice just certain things when playing against a computer, not just playing the game as a whole, because computers are not very good practice for that. But I will show you a game against a very hard level computer. That's the second highest level, only below Insane, which is stupid hard. And Insane is not a good build to practice, or Insane is not a good computer to practice against. Insane is a good computer to play if you want to try and figure out how to beat an Insane computer. No other reason to do that, because you can't practice anything against an insane computer. So anyways, this is a very hard match that I played against a computer, and I'll be showing you my main goal here was to practice this particular build order that involves getting a lot of hatcheries very quickly. And a lot of players are very afraid of very hard computers because they seem to attack very quickly with very large force. They say, why would you ever get an expansion up so quickly against a computer who's so smart and attacks so quickly? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show everyone real quick. So you can see the computer is down here in the bottom left with all these SCVs. And here I am up here. Switch it back to just my cam. I will open up the income tab to show you that right now the goal when playing against a computer should always be to make sure you are getting more resources than they are. And if you look, you'll see that I'm actually getting a little bit more resources per minute, and I'm a little bit behind on harvesters right now, which means that his resources per minute could start going up above mine. I'm just going to kind of leave it on my camera, so if you see the screen jumping around a lot, that's just what I was looking at in the game. Other than that, let's do this. You can see where our supplies are at. Right now, we're playing fairly equal. He's got a lot more workers than I do, but that's because the Zerg and Terran build things very, very differently. It's kind of difficult to compare. So he wastes no time in noticing I have an Overlord over here. Kind of a fast timing for that Marine, but I'm just going to run my Overlord away so he doesn't die, instead I don't supply block myself, which is more important in the early build than in the early game than really in any other part of the game. Supply blocking yourself at the beginning throws off your entire timing. Really quite horrible. This is interesting. See that Overlord out of the way. Something you'll see very common right here is this scouting SCV from the computer. Or sometimes you'll see them use air units to scout. Don't put too much effort into chasing these things down, because they're actually just for show. The computer scouts you perfectly. They see everything you do. They send these things around just to kind of justify the fact they can see everything. So like, well, at least I'm constantly scouting. But this SCV does nothing. The computer knows everything you do, regardless of whether or not you take that out. So, that having been said, let's resume here. So as you notice that we are at the 4-minute and 25-second mark in the game. So very, very, very little time has passed. You'll see that I have this base up here with the spawning pool, so I can make Zerglings. I have this second base right here, which is at the natural expansion, and I've already taken a third base down here. If we look at everybody, or everyone, you'll see that the computer is actually only on one base right now. One base. He's got some barracks. He's got some Marines going on there, and he's doing all this gas stuff. A lot of the times, like that scout I was showing you, this guy is just for show. In some regards, the resource gathering here, it's not for show. They do use this, but the computer cheats in some ways in regards to being able to have access to resources. It kind of keeps it hidden on the income tab, but the computer on very hard and insane does have ways that it cheats. I'm not quite sure if it simply gathers resources faster, or if the build times are a little bit faster, or there's some way in which the very hard and insane computers cheat, which is why it's not always the most representative way to practice something. Anyways, again, you'll see I'm on 3 bases, he's on 1, and I have 0 military units out right now. If you look at the production, you'll see I'm not even working on any. I'm building a queen right here. I probably will start building a queen right here as soon as I have the resources to. Again, you can't really see my cursor, but I'm trying to make these boxes. Once I have the resources right here, right, I'm at 14. But once I have 150, you'll probably see another queen coming out here. But the point is, I don't have a single military unit out. And you might think this is absolutely crazy, because here's Terran. He's got these 5 already, and he's very hard. Instead, I've just been building all these bases. But let's see what happens. So I'm about to hit 150 resources, and no, instead I choose to build more workers. Never really a bad choice. The trick is that a lot of people do very poorly, a lot of beginners, is that you need to be constantly spending your resources. If you have more than like 500 resources at the time, especially in the early part of the game, then you are playing bad. You should never have resources. Always be building something. If you see that you have resources, spend them immediately. Otherwise, you will fall behind. And getting more workers is never really a bad way to do it. Now, Zerg has one advantage. Now, see, I've made here 4 lings just to chase this guy away. Like I said, I don't really think it matters that much. But the Zerg have the kind of comfort and advantage in that, yeah, I haven't made very many military units yet, but with these queens, and the one that's started building here, they inject larvae into my hatcheries, and the larvae spawn down here. As you can see, this hatchery has 3. But the more larvae you have in these hatcheries, the more units you can build simultaneously. So I might not have any army, and then I am scouting and I see a push coming from down here. I can instantly build up the army that I'll know I will need to defeat it. That's why Zerg is able to kind of react a little bit more than the other races. So again, though, you're really not seeing a whole lot of stuff out of me yet. Just working on trying to get my economy up and build these workers. Just some shenanigans over here, chasing this SCV around. Again, like I said, not really for much of a purpose. What I am doing, though, is I'm putting these Zerglings on these watchtowers. Zerglings are a really cheap unit. They only cost 25 minerals and 1/2 of supply, because you build them 2 at a time for 1 supply. And they're really cheap, so it's okay to throw them away on these guard towers, because you won't really lose anything. Now, ideally, if you were playing against a real player, you would probably put on 2 per guard tower, 2 Zerglings, because oftentimes a real player will send a Marine out to a guard tower as well, for scouting, and 2 Zerglings can defeat 1 Marine, whereas 1 Zergling cannot. So, if it were a real game, I would do that. Against a computer, it's not really necessary, because he won't be trying to take out my guard towers until he has an army, and at that point 2 Zerglings versus 1 Zergling will not make a difference. So I just have these cheap Zerglings there to guard the watchtowers. If you look at my camera, you'll see that they do grant me vision over these parts of the map. So, back to whatever I'm doing. My Roach Warren is about to complete. That's going to allow me to get the slightly better unit called the Roach, which is very good against early game ground forces, such as these Marines. Not so hot against Marauders. Roaches are actually horrible against the Marauders, which are these basically moving cannons that are kind of like Marines with cannons strapped to their backs. But that's what the Zerglings are for. The Zerglings are much faster and are able to run around the Marauders and do a lot of damage very quickly. So you'll see what happens right now. Just actually because this is a really good time to start building stuff, but also because you'll see that my Zergling is noticing these units coming in right here. I've started building in my production tab, you know, 5 Roaches and 6 Lings. Notice they'll all finish right at the same time. So the fact that I only just started building them isn't going to hurt me, even though, because this army has a ways to go before it actually reaches my base. And here it comes, and look, there's my army. And I'm going to use the Queen as part of the army as well, because Queens actually have a pretty decent attack, even though they're primarily used as a support and defensive unit. They don't have a horrible attack, and their range allows them to kind of hang out in the back lines, tank a little bit of damage if they need to, but also be a decent force for attacking the enemy. Speaking of which, here he comes, and we'll see the first little battle of the match about to take place. And pretty straightforward and simple. I just kind of send what I have to go in and kill it. Now, the funny story is he's retreating, which is cool. But with these 2 Marauders and, what's this, 4 Marines, and another Marauder right here, and these other Marines that were on their way, this is actually enough of a force to take me out. This force could be strong because I only have 4 roaches, so I'm 1-to-1 in the Marauder roach count, and just a few Zerglings to back it up, but the Marines slice through those, so this is enough of a force to actually cause me some problems. But it would also probably lose all his army in the process, and he just doesn't want to do that. Being the smart little computer that he is, he's running away, and I'm gonna stay here and try and sort of regroup a little bit. I did build this spine crawler right here, which is a defensive structure that this tentacle reaches out and just kind of slaps people in the face. It's a really good defensive structure. I built that in case things went a little more poorly here, so I could kind of run up this way, up this ramp, and defend from up here while they tried to deal with this thing. So that was the goal for this. In the end, I turned out not to really need it, but hey, why not? So anyways, the computers retreat a little bit. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because this part of the game slows down, and it's kind of a lengthy game, so I sped it up to ×4 speed. And this is the part of the game where I'm just kind of trying to build up my army. Typically against a computer, against a real player, they'd be going for higher tiered units a little bit faster, so keeping with this low tier stuff is not really as strong. But knowing this is a computer, and knowing that computers for some reason just do not like to expand, probably because they don't really have to, I know that he's not really going to be having any higher tiered stuff yet. So I can just kind of keep going with these lower tiered units for the time being and be mostly okay. And here you can see the computer going for a little bit of a drop, taking these medevacs and dropping some units off into my base, hoping to catch me off guard. Fortunately, I did see it, one reason or another, and my army is right there to defend, and I of course will not lose any of my important units and structures right here in my main base. Those will all stay quite healthy, and those guys will fall. They will die. Oh, and he drops again, and I don't notice. I'm like, oh, I killed it all. Everything's fine. Except he doesn't do anything with them. They just kind of sit there. And, oh, here's his overlord. It sees them. He's like, hey, there's some guys up here. Take them out, no problem. Now here we see another little force moving out, which is quite interesting. And, okay, it doesn't look like it'll actually do anything, because the computer, of course, being the good little perfect mind-reading scouts that they are, know that they can't really take this out with just this. It's just not enough stuff just yet. Although, they are getting there. Look at that. That's enough stuff. Fortunately, I am also building more things, and this is the greatest unit the Zergs will ever have. The Baneling. It explodes, does lots of massive damage, and kills lots of units, and makes armies just kind of melt. So never ever a bad idea to have those, especially against Terran. They're so good at taking out all these tricky Marines and Marauders that can become very, very strong. But no amount of strength will prevent the Banelings from just destroying them. And here I have an Overseer, just in case they try to use some cheap cloaked ghost or banshee tactics, which eventually I believe they do start to do. I don't know how much of that we'll see. But again, the straightforward type of, this is part of the game where I'm just trying to build up my upgrades. I'm working on all these. This should actually probably start being a hive by now. I kind of slack on that. And yeah, otherwise I'm just staying on top of these larva injects. And look here. Ooh, I was talking and not paying attention. The computer snuck down here with all of that army for a nice little attack. I'm going to go back just a hair to wherever that started to occur and hit play. And oh yeah, here it comes. It's swinging right down in there. And I don't really think I noticed this. I'm going to, oh yeah, I do, because okay, that's what happened. I see it right here in the creep. They kill that creep tumor, of course, as the ravens can spot that stuff and that one and go down there. I wonder how long it takes me to react to that. A little bit, probably because I'm not sure they're committing here yet. I don't want to go all the way down here and then have them run up here and kill me. But here they come down this way, and watch what I do. This attack happens. Of course, my army is on the move to deal with it. And what else is that these workers get yanked because I don't want them to die, because I like getting money as much as I like killing the opponent. So what we see here is a bunch of the Marines and Marauders, which these Zerglings and Banelings and Roaches are custom designed to handle. We also see these medevacs, which make all these Zerglings have a harder time killing all these really strong Marines and Marauders, which have no upgrades whatsoever. But these medevacs constantly heal them. Okay, so cool. I have the mutas and one corruptor to deal with those. The wild card here is kind of this raven. Ravens are a weird little unit that Terran has, and in this case I think it's going to be making point defense drones that shoot down a lot of my ranged attacks. Yeah, that's what this is right here, this point defense drone. You can kind of see this little laser beam. It's shooting my muta's attacks while my mutas are in mid-air, while the attack's in mid-air, to kind of nullify the attack. But fortunately, his only real threatening force is on the ground, and the Zerglings and Roaches and Banelings are cleaning that up very, very nicely. And yeah, that's all gonna die. So right now I have this little army of mutas and roaches, and the computer doesn't have a whole lot of jack squat. Usually the best time to attack against a computer or a real player is right after you just held something off. So that naturally means I'm going to go right in and attack and see how I do. Oh, actually I hold up at this watchtower because I want to reinforce my army a little bit. You see I'm getting Baneling speed, 34 Zerglings on the way, and a lot of corruptors. And my cat is playing with my hand. It's trying to use my mouse, and that was annoying. That's why all that just happened. Anyways, let's resume the game. And some more mutas coming in. And then here are the Banelings and, I'm sorry, the Zerglings came in, and now I'm immediately morphing them to Banelings. That's why I wanted that Baneling speed to finish. Because when you're charging a base, you really need that Baneling speed, because you never know if Terran's going to have a lot of tanks. Fortunately, I don't think they use tanks this entire game. But if there are tanks, you want to get as few hits on those Banelings as possible, so you want them to be able to run in nice and quick. So that Baneling speed finishes, I start warping in a bunch of Banelings, get some corruptors, mutas. This is a type of army that's actually ready for almost anything. Granted, this is the type of army that's not ready for a lot of any one thing, but it's ready for a solid amount of several different things, which is exactly what we're going against. We have some air in the Raven and the Viking. We have these Helions, which are like motorcycle flamethrowers. And then we have these Marines and Marauders, which are just the standard ground units. Ooh, 2 Ravens. Ravens are so tough. They have so much HP. Not very easy to kill. And they have some pretty handy attacks. So anyways, that's going on, and I decide something happened here. I think I had sent in a Zergling or something, and I kind of scouted out everything that was going on here. And I saw the army back up this way, I think, because I think I had a corruptor up here, and the army killed the corruptor and retreated back this way. So I saw that if I was going to attack, my best path would not be to come straight up here where the army's waiting for me, but instead to slink around this side and take out this expansion if I can. So here comes my army, and that expansion dies almost instantly. But then we're met, of course, with the computer's army right here. And see, this is why I like to keep an overseer with my force at all times, because these little shadowy guys are kind of hard to see. These little blue shadowy guys in the middle, those are ghosts, and they are cloaked, which means they're invisible, and they are sniping, because they have an attack called Snipe right here. They're sniping my units, but fortunately, I do believe I have an overseer. Yeah, right there. There's my overseer. I always have one of those, so I can see the ghosts. I can snipe them, and they will die along with everything else here. Yes, here they come. So I was able to completely take out that expansion. And I'm actually able to do a lot of damage to this expansion as well. I don't actually get to take it out, but I hurt the infrastructure, and boom, look how long it takes the computer to decide, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and re-expand right there. And right here. Now, pretty ballsy. Anyway, so I am, in the meantime, I do realize that I did do substantial damage to most of his army, even though he was able to hold it off. So I wasted no time. 0 time in sending out this other force already. Just a small cheap force I was able to get up quickly. It constitutes some Zerglings and some Banelings. And what are they going to do? They're going to run in here, kill all these SCVs, and kill that expansion. And like I said, the cool thing about Zerg is that I'm able to kind of keep this reserve of larvae ready to just kind of go, oh, this is so bad, these should be mining, and they're not. Looks like actually it just finished like that very second, because that went the last one of it. Anyways, I was saying, oh, the cool thing about Zerg is that they have these pool of larvae that they're always able to just kind of respawn with. That's how, after my army died, I was already instantly able to have this attack force come right back in and see if I couldn't do just a little bit more damage, just to kind of keep the computer on their toes, as if the computer ever needed to be kept on their toes. Just trying to keep the computer on their toes so they wouldn't be able to mass up some massive counterattack on me. So I'm almost countering my own counterattack. Again, I don't know how crucial this is, but I do decide to go for the economy to see if I could take out more of these SCVs instead of sending all these Zerglings against this army right here. Not really sure if that's the best choice in this situation, but if we look at our units, look at our income, you'll see that I do have substantially more harvesters than the computer, and my income is substantially higher than the computer's, although these mules make up for a lot of that. Anyways, again, the computer is rebuilding, and they have this going on, so they're just in constant expand mode. Very hard computers are actually pretty hard. I kind of make this match look easy because I stay on the offensive the entire time, but to be honest, it's not easy to beat a very hard computer. I'm just showing some general rules for beating, just playing the game well in general. This isn't so much like how to beat a hard computer, because I'd have to be way slower and more in depth than that, because like I said, it's actually really hard. Now what I've done here is I've gone with all these Mutalisks, which are flying units that attack both air and ground, although neither that effectively, because I've been using primarily ground so far, and so these Marauders and Helions, which the computer's been building a lot of, will be more or less somewhat useless against Mutalisks, as well as this Raven. The Raven has nothing that the Mutalisks really have to worry about. So the Mutalisks can also even take out that pesky Raven as well. And the computer is continuing to make these Marauders, which is just great. That's just why I went Mutalist. That way, if they just did decide to come in and press an attack, the only thing I would really need to worry about are the Marines. And even then, again, those aren't going to be a huge problem. So the Mutalists are just kind of a safety net. And yeah, here's this medevac floating around. Now, in the game, you don't know that there aren't units inside of it, but right here in the replay I can see that it is empty. But in the game I see that, and I said, well, the computer's doing drops before, so it's never a bad idea to send air units to take out dropships like that, because there's a chance they could be filled with units, and so you might have killed a whole lot with one stone. Killing these rocks, I should have done this much earlier in the game. It's a really good defensive idea for Zerg to not have rocks here. At the same time, other races like Terran and Protoss will want these rocks because it allows narrower chokes. The last thing Zerg ever wants is narrow chokes. Big open battlefields are really what benefit Zerg the most, because they're able to swarm in, use their mobility to their advantage, kind of dance around and run out of the way, retreat, attack, or just kind of get a nice surround on the enemy. So always taking out these rocks is a really good defensive idea because they're so close to my base. If they come and attack and then I get stuck fighting them in this choke point here, that's not very good. It's not a battle I want to have happen. So just take out these rocks and there's a nice large choke which plays better to my advantages. There's another medevac I'm chasing down. Again, I think that one was empty, but you never know that in the game. And please tell me yes, I do have the Greater Spire now. So you'll see that I have taken these corruptors and converted them to broodlords, which are these big flying manta ray looking things. Broodlords should be Zerg's end goal in every game. Every single game, a Zerg's goal should be, I need to do whatever I can to stay alive long enough to get broodlords, because broodlords are very good at winning games. They're lots of HP, very difficult to kill, and they attack ground only, but they do so by shooting out all these tiny little I don't know what to call them. They're called broodlings. These shoot out these tiny little broodlings that swarm the enemies, kind of like Zerglings do. But there's just an infinite number of them. So and they can attack from a pretty lengthy distance. So these things just kind of surround ground armies. It means that the ground armies can't push forward very easily, and these guys can just stay out of range and just kind of win the game. But you do have to have anti-air support with them because they move quite slowly and can't attack other air units. So if you get caught off guard with them, you're going to be in big trouble. But again, if you play Zerg, you need to do whatever you can to get these broodlords, because that's how you win the game, is with broodlords. And it's interesting, this little ghost snuck on by me, because I don't have an overseer with this army right here. I do happen to just have one chilling right there. And when this ghost comes up here, he's going to find himself in range of the overseer and this that thing. So he shows up right about there, and the spine crawler starts attacking him, and he is now a dead cloaked ghost. So his goal was probably, if I were to guess, yes, this nuclear silo is not armed. I was going to say his goal was probably to nuke. I don't know why else you would send a cloaked ghost this far into a base. But whatever it was, he was not able to achieve it because he died. And look at this. This is a big, nasty force. Lots of Marines, lots of medevacs, one Viking, probably just to determine if I have anything like an Overlord to take out. A single Viking is obviously not going to stand up against an air army, but if he's thinking, oh, you know, he might have one type of specialty air unit, this will help me take it out, not really going to be the case. These Thors, however, are very strong against air. There's only 2 of them, but they pack a huge punch, and they have a lot of HP and are very difficult to kill. And then, of course, this big, nasty Marine Marauder force is always just so tough. If you look on my camera, I actually don't see that is coming for quite some time. I'm looking down here at the mini-map, by the way, the bottom left corner of this square, because I still forgot to enable the settings where you can see my cursor and fraps. You don't know where I'm pointing, but it's down here in this mini-map. So that's where I'm looking at most of the time during the game. Anyways, that's where you should always be looking at, because that's actually where all the action is. Believe it or not, the action is not up here in StarCraft. The action is down here in this mini-map. If you're not watching it, you'll be caught with your pants down constantly. I have a friend I play with a lot, and he never looks at the mini-map. And we've probably lost some matches because of him. And ooh, boom, there I see the first glimpses that there's even anything down here. We'll look at everyone, and of course he's got this army just kind of waiting up here, but he's just saying these Hellions right now just kind of tease me and see if he can take out some early preliminary damage. And then here comes the whole force. And look at my Zerglings right here in the front line. I should have a lot of Banelings mixed in with this to just rip through this ground force. The problem is that I didn't. I probably just forgot to. Because these Zerglings are going to be far less effective than if I had a bunch of Banelings in with them. Especially since this is a lot, but it's not nearly enough to get a proper surround on these units. However, what is enough is all the broodlings that these broodlords are going to produce for me. And I'll just let this battle play out. Ooh, one thing that's interesting that's happening over here. is that somehow something got under attack over here. I'm guessing there was another ghost that snuck in and was doing some damage. Anyways, back over here to the real juicy stuff is, again, like I was talking about those Zerglings, you notice those Zerglings are all very dead. Not a single Zergling left. What is left? Lots of Broodlords, and no other anti-air. Fortunately, all of their anti-air has... No, there's one Viking. So that Viking is actually quite lethal to me in this state. Fortunately, these point defense drones don't do anything against the melee attacks that these broodlings actually are. So these really powerful Thors are actually absolutely powerless against the flood of broodlings. And here come a nice little stream. Huge stream. Look at this. This is a beautiful play on my behalf. Huge stream of Zerglings. My favorite thing to do right now is when I'm starting to lose my army, reinforce it with a crap load of Zerglings. How many did I make? I have 107 Zerglings out right now because they're so cheap. They build so quick, and they can do a surprisingly decent job of turning the tide of battle. And they reinforce you so quickly. So boom, all those Zerglings coming in to help back me up. Too bad the issue that I really need right now is anti-air. Oh, what is attacking me over here? I think it's another cloaked ghost that I'm just not seeing. Let me switch to everyone. Yep, there he is. Mr. Cloaked Ghost, just chilling there in the base, sniping dudes. Eventually, I think he... Sorry, I had to cough. Eventually, I think he gets discovered. But, I don't know. There is a nuke, if you can see right here. There is a nuclear warhead that the computer does have available to it. So maybe their goal with this ghost is to find a good solid place to nuke me. And honestly, this would be an excellent place to nuke me. But it just doesn't look like the ghost is that interested in doing it. So anyways, I hold off that attack. I retreat the Broodlords for the time being, because this Viking, which was airborne a few minutes ago, he wouldn't have been able to pick off my entire army of Broodlords very quickly, but at the same time I didn't want to risk anything. Looks like I do discover this ghost, and right now he is just getting the business end of this long tentacle. There's the ghost, there's the tentacle, and now the ghost is dead. That's beautiful. Point defense drone is not doing anything. Okay, so he's got another army, blah blah blah, that's all cool. Let's look and see though what position the computer's in right now. Space is mined out. His base is also mined out. I have one base mined out. This one's not mined out yet. This one's not mined out yet. This one's just getting started. This one is not anywhere near mined out yet. The computer has chosen to expand up here, which is a really good idea because it's very close to me, and it will be able to kind of help with a slow and steady push if he chooses to do something like that. This other expansion the computer has right here in the middle is just kind of the natural order of expanding in this game. So this is a very normal expansion to have. And this third one is almost mined out thanks to all these mules. Now what this means is that right now this expansion and this expansion are really the only two expansions that are money makers for the computer at the moment. This gets him nothing, that gets him nothing, and that's almost to the point of getting him nothing. And that one's not gotten started yet. So I have this nice little juicy force here that consists of lots of Broodlords, lots of Corruptors to defeat whatever anti-air they may have planned for me, and the ground will be grounded and pounded with all these Zerglings and Banelings. Of course, I'm going to take out this ghost because I do not want it using this nuclear warhead on this big army, because that will be bad. So, ghost dies. And so does this expansion over here, which, as I point out, was one of the two real money makers for the computer. Now let's look at the income for a moment, and you'll see that right now the computer actually is gaining resources faster than me, with significantly more harvesters as well. But I changed that pretty quickly. I leveled the playing field in harvesters literally completely, and raised my income substantially because I have multiple bases mining. In the process, I also take out a real large cluster of his army, because honestly, once you get to a point where you allow a Zerg to have this many Broodlords, you're not going to win very easily, especially when they back it up with corruptors so nicely and enough of a ground force. The real answer to Broodlords is Ravens, which I've done my best throughout the game to take out whenever I see them. Ravens have an ability called the Seeker Missile, which they can launch at these very slow-moving Broodlords, and it just annihilates them. Almost just in one fell swoop, can kill all of them. But it's so ridiculously powerful that any solid Zerg player knows to advance their Broodlords with these corruptors, so that when they see something like that, they can take it out. And of course, I took out one of his only 2 mining bases, so the next step is to just go in to the next mining base and take it out, of course. Try to deal with this army at the same time. As you can see, I did just bring in those Ling reinforcements that I like to do, so the huge reinforcement of Zerglings has come in to help kind of mop this up and keep his army away while I destroy his expansion over here. And in the meantime, I've also sent in some Zerglings up here to the north because I did see that he expanded this close to me, and I'm taking this out as well. So if this is gone and this is gone, the computer will have literally no bases that they are mining from. And if you look at the income, you'll see that my income is way above his. And he might have quite a few harvesters still, but all the harvesters in the world don't matter if you don't have any bases to send the resources to. Look at this, I love this. For a second there, his income was actually at 0, because he has all these SCVs kind of in a state of, I don't want to die, so we're going to stay away from all this action. And so I'm kind of giving the computer the finger, and I'm changing these 5 corruptors into Broodlords. So once those warp in, because I see at this point, the computer has pretty much got their back against the wall, and they're not going to really have an answer, like an air versus air answer that these Broodlords have to be worried about at this point in the game. The worst I'm going to see now really is probably Marines, and Marines will not be able to defeat this many Broodlords. Just not going to happen. And I think the computer realizes this. And yeah, I say, well, you know what? Let me go up here and take out this expansion. There it falls, and the computer says, you know what? I'm through with you. I can't handle this anymore. Good game. So, the name of the game was Expand Everywhere. Expand fast and early. Remember, I got 3 bases so fast that a lot of players would probably be afraid to do that, but really there's nothing wrong with it, because if you get attacked, guess what? You will be able to get units there fast enough, and your economy will be really strong afterwards, so that when you're even if you kind of lose most of your units, you'll be able to get them back very quick. Now, 3 bases this fast is kind of Zerg specific, but any other race could easily do the justice of getting 2 bases. But otherwise, that's the most important things to know, I guess, when facing a computer. I mean, I'm not an expert, obviously, at this game by any stretch of the imagination. Beating a very hard computer hardly makes you an expert. It just means you are good enough to beat a very hard computer. But that's kind of sort of how you do it. Thank you for your time. Bye.